Greetings, adult collectors. I am Crash the Customizer, and welcome to another Custom Transformers Showcase. This is my Custom Transformers Prime Arcee. And like a lot of my Prime figures, this is the Robots in Disguise version. And this is a case where, even if I was able to get my hands on the first edition figure, I would have still bought this one. And that's simply because of show accuracy. Now, I know a lot of people like the first edition figure, and I will say, I do think the engineering of that figure is cool, how like the chest becomes the front of the bike, but it doesn't look show accurate. While this figure here captures Arcee's look in the show perfectly. I mean, this figure looks like it literally just jumped right off the show. So, honestly, I think this is the best Arcee figure in my opinion, but to each their own. So, what I did with this figure is I painted this section here with the pink, painted that here as well, and then this little side things on our head, and then I painted these pink, and that's actually, I'm trying to be clever with that because there was 2 episodes in the show where they had, I guess, a error where this right here actually was pink, and I thought it'd be kind of funny just to paint that just because. So that's really about all I really painted in the robot mode. Now, obviously, we have this backpack section. And I believe even the first edition figure had this backpack. And this is actually pretty typical for a bike figure. I mean, there's really not many figures that transform into a bike that don't have junk on the back. I mean, there's only really 2 figures that I know of that pull off a perfect bike and robot mode. And that brings in our first comparison, animated Prowl. Where for this figure here, we literally have both the wheels are the legs. And honestly, Prime Arcee is pretty much just the Prime version of Prowl, because even though they're completely different characters, their characters are pretty similar. I mean, Arcee wasn't really, of course, a ninja, but she did kind of fight like one, honestly. So, the only other figure that I know of that pulls off a perfect robot mode that transforms into a bike would be this figure here. And of course, this is a second mold. This originally was the Crash Bar, and then they made this figure. But it's literally the same mold. And the wheels are on the back, but they're folded up on the legs. So yeah, this is literally the only other figure that I know of that actually pulls off a perfect bike and robot mode and doesn't have like a bunch of junk on the back. I mean, because 99% of bikes, you literally either take off a wheel and put it on their arm or something, or it just hangs off the back and literally just looks dumb. But hey, I mean, at least there's some figures that don't do it. And honestly, this doesn't bother me all that much. I mean, you're not really going to see that from the front. And technically, this is show accurate in the case where this would actually be a lot more pushed in, but I mean, like I said, if you're not looking at it from the back, you don't really notice it. I mean, honestly, the front is where you're looking at this figure, and it'll be up against a shelf where you don't see that, but, you know. So, we'll bring in the comparisons of the other Prime figures. Here she is with my custom Optimus Prime. Here she is with my custom Prime Bulkhead. Here she is with my custom Prime Ratchet. And here we have them all together. And that looks pretty awesome. So now, we'll bring in some weapons. So, to do that, I did add these little Lego studs here. And that allows to bring in the arm blades, which is a Lego assembly here. So, we've got another stud, little flat tiles here, this little 1x4 plate, and then this piece, and then these things. I don't know what they call those. And how these work is this little open stud right here. We'll just go just like this. Put them on both sides. And there we have Arcee with her blades. And that looks pretty cool. And then also bring in this little blaster assembly I made here, and this is made by another of those 1x4 plates, 1x2 plate, and then this little bracket piece with some slopes and this little transparent piece here. And how this works is it just basically, you have to rotate her hand around this way. And then just basically you'll kind of tuck in underneath there, so you kind of know it's still there, but it kind of hides it to some degree. So then just rotate the hand around and just basically put it just like that. Oops. Now she has her blasters. And of course, you can have her with the opposite, so you can have one with a blaster and one with the arm blade. Now to get our seat into our bike mode, first thing we need to do is engage the automorph gimmick by unpegging her crotch section, and it will take the whole head section and push it in. And then we got this kind of cool transformation where we'll just pull the wheels out of the legs here, and these hinges, and just kind of push this section up. Now this can get a little tricky, as we have these pegs that go in these ports, and then tabs that go in here. And you just got to try to line things up just right. And I have found if you line the wheels up first, it makes things a little easier. Just got to try to find where the holes are, line those up, and then you can just peg this section together. And then we just basically fold up her legs here, just like this. Go ahead and pull this section down on its hinge, and then hinge this down, and then hinge up like that. Then we take her arms, we're going to rotate them this way, and then rotate the hands as well. And then they will tab in right here, so you just got to try to get things lined up with the ball joint. Just kind of get that out of our way for a second here. See that? Now, of course, her hands do kind of just sit back there and don't really go anywhere, but it doesn't really affect things all that much. So next thing we need to do is we're going to tab these sections into here. And they don't tab in as well as I used to because I added a stud for her weapons, but it still works well enough. So you just got to get things lined up. Get tabbed in. And then we'll just bring down our kickstand. And there we have RC in her bike mode. I will say this kickstand works a lot better than Prowl's. And speaking of Prowl, here she is with animated Prowl. And kind of like I was saying earlier, I mean, these do kind of have some similar looks. I mean, they both have kind of real sleek motorcycles. Now, granted, they are a little bit different, but they have some similarities in the case of like how this section here and then like this. Just kind of, the bike is very similar. So, I mean, it really does kind of seem like Prime Arcee is kind of like the equivalent of animated Prowl. So here she is with Optimus. Here she is with Ratchet. And here she is with Bulkhead. And here we have them all together. So as far as paint for the bike mode goes, I painted this little seat section with some black so it actually looks a little more show accurate there. I painted the little section here with the pink. I painted these little exhausts with some silver. Painted the little dashboard here with silver, and then silver in the mirrors. And then I used some red to kind of paint in the tail lights. Now to get RC back into her robot mode, first thing we need to do is untap these sections, and now you got some weird flying mode. And then we're going to go ahead and push the kickstand up, just like that. Going to pull down the legs, go ahead and split them. And then just fold them back up into the leg here. Just kind of pull this back, flip this wheel section up, just like this. And you got this weird looking mode. And then we're just going to untab the arms. And then basically just kind of fold things up. Fold this section back. This section here will fall down on the hinges. And we just tab this section here in that, and it will in turn bring our head up. We'll just rotate our arms, rotate the hands so that they're facing the right way. Put these sections back, push up our head a little bit. And there we have RC back into a robot mode. See, I honestly like how this figure looks. Because like I was saying earlier, if I had the option to pick this one or the first edition, this is the one I'd pick. And I'm not saying the first edition is a bad figure, because the engineering of the first edition figure, I will say, is pretty cool. But this one just looks a lot more show accurate to me, and this is honestly the one that I want to have in my collection. But of course, to each your own. You can pick whatever figure that you like. This is just the one that I thought looked the best. Now, the one thing I would say I don't like, but it's not that big of a deal, is I wasn't able to add posable hands. And that's simply because of the size of this figure. Because most deluxes, I can just put 3 fingers and it works. But with this one, if I would have put posable fingers, it would actually kind of hang off way too much and look kind of weird. But that doesn't really affect this figure all that much. You can still put her in some classic RC poses. So we got some kind of arms crossed, kind of getting her real heroic looking pose like that. So even though I wasn't able to add posable fingers like I do most of my figures, it's still a pretty good figure, and I'm really glad to have this in my collection. So that's pretty much it for this video. So if you like this, be sure to check out the description, where you'll find a link to all of my future Prime customs. There will also be a link that will take you to my Legacy animated customs, along with a link that will take you to my stop motion channel, where currently I'm just doing some random stop motions, but I'm planning to do a stop motion series, which I am actually coming closer to making. I am working on filming some scenes right now and kind of learning about it, and so far it's been turned out pretty cool. So hoping to have a stop motion out soon. Don't know when, but soon. So be sure to check out that channel. And be sure to like and subscribe to this one so you don't miss any future customs. And until next time, this is Crash the Customizer out.
RC, I need you to take Agent Fowler to the police department to pick up Cliff Jumper.
Police department? What did he do?
He received a parking ticket and had to be towed. Which is why Agent Fowler must go to pay the fee. And I was hoping you could talk some sense into him.
Oh, trust me, I plan to.
He should know better. It's not like we didn't have that rule back on Cybertron as well. Cliff Jumper lives up to his name and jumps before thinking. Let us hope this is the only trouble he gets into. For one of these days, it could be fatal.